On this model, we can see inside the kidney. We can see the internal anatomy of the kidney. Here's the kidney. Remember, that's the adrenal gland on the top of it. And you can see plainly that the adrenal gland has an outer cortex and an inner medulla. Just pointing out those regional things while we're in the territory. The outside layers of the kidney are called the renal cortex. And all the stuff in the middle is called the renal medulla, renal cortex and renal medulla. Now, these structures here, 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 and here, and here, they're called the renal pyramids. Look at them, they have a pyramidal shape. That's all in the medulla now. The cortex is just the outside. So these are called the renal pyramids. And in between the renal pyramids, the lighter tissue in there, in between, those are called the renal columns. The renal columns. And we're going to see in a minute that most of the nephrons that make urine are in the cortex. And there's some that are called juxtamedullary nephrons that dip down into the medulla, but 85% of them are in the cortex. The nephron's the unit that makes the urine. So these are renal pyramids, the darker ones, and in between the pyramids are the renal columns. Then they drain the urine into the major calyces. These are the major calyces. The minor calyces. Forgive that. They drain urine into the minor calyces. Then they get bigger and bigger, and they're called major calyces. Then they finally drain it into the renal pelvis, and the renal pelvis is like a funnel that funnels it into the ureter, which would be right down here. You saw that on the other models. And of course, here's your renal artery. We'll look a little bit on another model at the branching of that. And here's your renal vein. Renal artery carrying dirty blood into the kidney. The nephrons are going to clean it up. The urine, all the dirty stuff, is going to go through the drainage system of the minor calyces, then the major calyces, then the renal pelvis, then the ureter down to the bladder. Okay, and then the cleaned up blood is going to drain out through the renal vein into the inferior vena cava. Remember, this renal artery comes from the abdominal aorta. Okay, so cortex on the outside, medulla on the inside, renal pyramids, renal columns, minor calyces, major calyces, renal pelvis, ureter. Okay. Renal artery, renal vein. Renal artery's got dirty blood, renal vein's got clean blood. And don't forget the little old adrenal gland up here on top of the kidney.